Welcome back to Chamber Chat. Joining me now, I have Marshall Guthrie, who is the Director of the Student Enrichment Program here at Western Oregon University. Marshall, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, I'm glad I could be here. This is fantastic.
So, I've known you for a while now, and you're wearing more and more hats, it seems, in the community. So we'll start with what you do with Western, and we'll see about the rest. But explain a little bit more of what the Student Enrichment Program is and what your role with that is, please.
Right. So my primary role here in the community is that I am the director of the Student Enrichment Program. It's a federally funded TRIO program. So we work with first-generation and low-income students as well as students with documented disabilities. And the whole goal of the program is how do we get students who are underrepresented in campus environments to graduation. So that's our goal, is to get them across that stage. And we do that through a number of ways. When you think about first-generation and low-income students, there's certainly, for first-generation students, a lack of places that they can go to get their questions answered about college. So we become a stand-in for parents who may not have college experience to answer those questions. I know that my folks were very supportive of my college experience, but they themselves were not college graduates, and so they didn't have a lot to offer me in the way of information. Low-income students, is pretty obvious. There's a cycle where if you graduate from college, you earn more money, but it takes more and more money every year to go to college, and so it becomes increasingly difficult for students from low-income backgrounds to get that college degree. And we try to help those students as well by providing free classes, resources such as we have a textbook library that is mainly based on donations. They can get textbooks from us for free instead of paying $100 bucks.
Awesome.
As publishers are very, they're very proud of their textbooks. And on top of that, we try to also educate them. I teach a financial literacy class, educate them about how to manage their college budget in a way that keeps things inexpensive as can be while they're pursuing their degree.
That is wonderful. I have a sister who's 4 years older, so luckily I got to learn more about college because of her experience, but our mom didn't go to college, and so she was definitely the guinea pig in learning all that. A program like this would have been fabulous for us. I went to a small college in North Carolina, and luckily the financial aid office, the admissions office, they were very hands-on and helped guide me through a lot of that as well once I got to Davidson. So the fact that that program exists at Western, you have this outreach to that student population, I find personally just amazing, and I'm glad that program exists.
Yeah, and I can't take all the credit for it. Anybody that knows Western knows how much Western values its first-generation students and our students from low-income backgrounds. And so everywhere you go on campus, whether it's financial aid, whether it's academic advising, your professors in the classroom, they are attuned to the special needs that students without previous college experience in their family have.
Because it's definitely overwhelming. And then you hear the horror stories from people, which makes you even less likely to want to do this. And so it's nice that there's that help there, and the financial literacy that you're adding to it. That's just wonderful. I
as a first-generation low-income student, I could tell you my own horror stories. We'd have to change the rating on the program if I did that. It's definitely a trial by fire, and it's unfortunate because there's so much. It's not a question of ability for low-income first-generation students. It's a question of access, and there's so much unused potential out there in America, in our workforce, that people just aren't being taken to their fullest potential.
So now, why Western Oregon University? Why did you choose to live, work in Monmouth Independence, Western Oregon? Why?
Well, I was primarily dragged here, I would say. We were myself and my partner Megan, we were in New York at the time, and I was working a lot at a different university than she was. We were about 3 hours apart, so if we wanted to catch each other for dinner, we were working mornings and nights. It was like a 3-hour round trip, and so that really cut into our quality of life. And on top of that, when we did have time off, we were going to visit the family. My family is still in Iowa. Her family was out here in Oregon, so we were flying back and forth across the continent a couple times a year. And things were going great at my job. I liked the school that I was at. It was a smaller private institution. Had some things going for it, other things I prefer about Western. But at the end of the day, we couldn't do it anymore. We needed to find more balance. And so she took a job out here at Western and told me about the university, and I said, well, I'm coming out along with you. There's no way I'm leaving you or this opportunity behind. I got my insurance license. I worked at Best Buy. I basically hustled for a while, and then finally got on with the Student Enrichment Program as an advisor. And so for me, I'd been to Oregon a couple times. I'd been to Portland primarily, been to the Valley. I knew what to expect. I knew how beautiful it was. And it wasn't a question for me, especially considering that Western was a smaller public institution. It was something that I knew that I was missing at the privates. Not that there's anything wrong with the variety of institutions that we have providing education across this country, but for me, the students that attend a public university are really there to get their education first and foremost, and they understand the value of education. And sometimes that can get lost when your tuition's a little bit higher. You start to ask yourself, what am I really paying for? And you lose sight of where that money should be going, which is helping you get the knowledge and the experience that you need to be successful.
So you said you were familiar with Oregon or the area and whatnot. What would you say, now that you've been here for a while, what would you say is a feature that really just stands out, makes the Polk County area, the Monmouth Independence area, what really makes us stand out, would you say?
Right, so I think that this is something when people ask, you know, why should I come to Polk County, you almost just want to say, go try it out once. And whether it's anywhere up and down the valley from Portland all the way down here to Monmouth Independence, once you experience it, once you experience the beautiful weather, I mean, I'm from Iowa, so any place there isn't 4 feet of snow on the ground, I don't care if it's raining, it's beautiful to me. You experience the people. It has a lot of that small town atmosphere. People talk about folks from the Midwest, Iowa being so friendly, and I get that same feeling out here, that same neighborly feeling, and people are genuinely happy to see each other and they want to make those good relationships and those good connections. I say come out here and experience those things, and you hear from folks. As soon as they come out here, they know what it is. I had a friend of mine that went to the Daily Show taping in New York, and before the show, Jon Stewart comes out and he meets the guests and they strike up a conversation. She says she's from Portland, and he said, oh, Portland, Oregon, I love that place. And she says, shh, don't tell anyone. And of course he steps up, oh yeah, Portland, terrible, it's the New Jersey of the West. But the reality is, I think that we do hide our light under a bushel to a certain extent. We expect people just to know about it. We got to get out there and tell people how great Oregon is and how great Monmouth Independence is, and get more smart, talented, energetic people to this community, because we have so much potential for growth and so much to offer.
I would agree. Again, my husband and I are from North Carolina. We've lived here now for several years and absolutely love Oregon, love the Valley, love Monmouth Independence, and I'm very happy to call it home. I'm sure we still have some family members who are questioning, why Oregon? It's like, well, come out and visit and you'll see why Oregon. No offense to North Carolina, of course, but it's quite wonderful here. Now, what would you say has been one of your greatest professional accomplishments?
My greatest professional accomplishment is probably the time that I'm now spending with the Board of Trustees for Western Oregon University. I was selected as a staff representative, and so my peers kind of put my name forward, and they put a couple names forward, and after meeting with a couple of folks, I was selected to fulfill the role. And so I think they got me on the hook for 4 years. I think it's my term. Way before the Senate got confirmed, all that. That was fun. That was an experience I hadn't had a lot of experience with. I have a couple political roles now, but I hadn't delved too much into politics before that. But for me, what was most exciting about that is that I now have this opportunity, as Western becomes independent from the OUS system, to really guide the direction that we're going to take. And for those of you that don't know the OUS system, dissolving, we won't get too much into it, but essentially each individual university now that was part of the original 7 has its own independent governing board, and they get to kind of guide their own destiny. And this is great because I'm here on campus. So many of the other board members are either here on campus or in the area or are alumni or otherwise affiliated with Western. And so there's going to be more access to people who know about Western and who are guiding it than there's ever been before. I always felt that, and sometimes you get this, you feel like the government system is kind of nebulous. You don't know where to start. You don't know who's really responsible, who's behind the big doors and the big gold-topped buildings. That's not what's happening here now at Western. Instead, you know the faces of the people. You can go to the website, you can see every single person on the board. We all have email addresses through the university, and so the people, the students, the faculty, the staff here at Western are going to have far more access to the folks driving the ship than they've ever had before. And I think there's going to be so much collaboration and so much idea-centric purpose that comes out of this, that Western is just so poised to do so much in the next years.
So I mentioned in the beginning that you wear multiple hats, and
I do,
that's
a little
one that, an additional hat. And then congratulations as well. Recently, you were elected to the Monmouth City Council.
Yep, first
so
official election, vindication.
There you go. So yet another hat that Marshall Guthrie is wearing. So along those lines, what would you say has been one of your greatest personal accomplishments?
It's funny with that lead-in, it may not seem like it, but my greatest personal accomplishment is probably a greater work-life balance than I've ever had before. Working in student affairs and education, it's expected that when you're young and unmarried, you have no family, you have all this energy, they're going to grind you to a nub. And I think that happens a lot. And so when I was at my previous institutions, I've been affiliated with 6+ institutions now, they take advantage of young energy, and we have to in order to get the best out of our people. But there were times when, because my daily commute was an hour at best, I was sleeping under my desk because I was working late and it didn't make any sense to go home. That wasn't a great way to live. And so while I'm still certainly putting in a lot of hours both inside and outside the institution with city council on the board, I have more time now to do things that I enjoy. Bike riding is a huge part of my life. I only rediscovered it after leaving New York. I don't know if you know this about New York traffic. It's not the most conducive to taking a bike through.
It appears not that way, yes, on the movies and TV and things like that. Yeah, not really
it's,
bike friendly.
Yeah, and I think that at the end of the day, a lot of people just look at the odds and say, I'm going to skip the bike, I'm going to hop in a car, and it's unfortunate because I am by far healthier and happier and I have more energy and I spend less money on transportation than I ever have before in my life. So it ties also back into why Monmouth and why Independence and why Western Oregon is that when I looked at the community and I realized it was the kind of place where I could cut my commute down to a bike ride and we could go down to a single vehicle. I thought, this is perfect. I'm going to spend my life outside of that metal cage we call an automobile. And now a lot of people will count the number of miles they put on a bicycle over the course of the years. I find it's easier just to count the number of miles I put in a car. It's a smaller number.
So last question real quick before we run out of time. But
Sure.
my favorite question I get to ask everyone is, what skill or hobby do you have that might surprise people? So now that we know all these hats that you're wearing, your
Sure.
passion for your job, for this community, it's your home, what's something that might surprise people about you?
So I try out a lot of different hobbies. I'd say that the one other than the bike riding that I've really stuck with has been, I'm a big home theater and music fan. So when I was in college, even when you had the little 13-inch television and the one stereo speaker splashing mono sound out of the front, I was really into music, I was really into movies. And so I'm a contributing videographer and reviewer for audioholics.com, and so that's a home theater website. We've been trying to get to more concerts now. We have a close proximity not only to the great entertainment at Rice Auditorium here locally, but also to Portland and Salem. And so we went to a Postal Service concert, the 10th year anniversary of their release of the Give Up album. And it was something that, it's funny, people think, okay, you're in New York, you have all this entertainment around you. The reality is it's all too cumbersome to get to and it's too expensive. Here in this community, you're an easy drive away, or better yet, here in town at Rice Auditorium, an easy walk, an easy bike ride away from really world-class entertainment, and you can finally take advantage of all this great stuff that's happening without it costing you a fortune or taking a whole day off work. So for me, not only do I plant myself firmly in front of my television at home, and I do a little bit of work on the side for this internet publication, but I try to take advantage of more music and theater opportunities as well.
Super. Well, Marshall, you definitely are actively engaged in our community. We're happy to have you here, and thank you for being part of Chamber Chat today.
It's been fantastic. Thank you very much.